Okay, my name is Father Ron Cote. I'm a retired priest of Hamilton Diocese. I'm living currently at Saints Peter and Paul Parish in Hamilton, and I'm helping out there at times, and I'm on the road many weekends filling in for other priests. My health is great, thank the Lord, and so I really enjoy this time of my life. I was one of 11 priests ordained that year in 1955. Largest group ever ordained for Hamilton Diocese. And 7 have gone to the Lord. The other 4, our visas haven't expired yet. So we do what we can. All 4 of us are doing what we can to assist and to live our vocation above and beyond the normal administration that a pastor deals with. Just by way of biography, I also, as soon as before I was ordained, I received a letter from Bishop Ryan indicating that I was to go to Ontario College of Education to take the summer course for high school teachers. It was not a surprise because he had a high priority for the Catholic high schools, and so I was assigned to teach at Cathedral Boys. 7 years later, he knocks on my door, that is Bishop Ryan, and invites me to be principal of Bishop Ryan High School. I nearly fell over and tried to name a few others that were better qualified. However, he said, I think you can do it. So I did it for 13 years and then a couple of years at Cardinal Newman. I would never have chosen to teach or to be principal, but I'm glad I did. It gave me experiences that I would never have had, and I guess used gifts that might have never been used. But at all that time I lived in parishes, and later I was asked to be pastor of a parish in 1977, and from that point on I was in parish work exclusively. On the question of how did I think of the seminary, well, I was inspired by many priests. Our family was close to the church. My family was quite involved. We were a large family. I had a younger brother, priest, eventually, Father Dave, whose visa expired 4.5 years ago. He didn't have my health. And yes, there were priests who did inspire me. Father John O'Reilly at Church of Our Lady, Guelph, was a real important figure in my life. I guess he came to the parish shortly after I was baptized, and he was there during my ordination years he was moved, but he came back for my first Mass. Father Frank Hawkins was a big factor. He knew that, he was suggesting maybe a seminary was a possibility, but I had already thought about it even from grade 4, because the priests who used to come into class and so on, I admired them, and I thought, I might be able to do that someday. And so I guess that was where it all started. And this priest, as I say, Father Hawkins, took a few of us to the seminary one day, and that was a real revelation. I expected it to be like a monastery, where they were praying half the day. Well, of course they weren't. They were going to classes, they were out on recreation. They looked like normal people. They did their share of praying. But it made it much more attractive when I saw the kind of life, that seminary life really was. So yes, many, and the pastors that I've had, even since I've been a priest, each of them had special gifts that I admired and I guess learned from. The ways that they lived out their priestly vocation. The joys of priesthood are many, in my opinion. One is kind of a sense that you're father of a large family. I remember a priest told a little story about a minister and a priest who were good friends, and they would have lunch once in a while together, and the minister, after a few of these lunches, said, there's something that really concerns me. I'm married and have 3 children, and they call me Reverend. You're not married and have no kids, and they call you Father. What's that all about? Well, that's what it is. You're the father of a large community, a large family. They see you, most of the families of faith see you as part of their family. And you're there for joyful moments and for some of the saddest moments. One of the greatest privileges, and I think one of the finest moments is when you're with people as they're leaving this world and with their family, to give them hope and give them consolation. That's really important these days. It's always been important, but it's especially important now. And on those days when I had the pager, taking turn to look after emergencies in the hospital, when you get called out in the middle of the night and you're driving to the hospital, you say to yourself, this is really what I was ordained for. This is what it's all about. This is a really important mission that I'm on, even though it's 3 in the morning. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. And you deal with the family at the same time there. And maybe assist them. Maybe they've been away from the church for a while, but you can assist them to reconnect with, because they're going to need some reconnection very quickly. Other consolations, the many, many people and friends that you make over the years. You don't keep, most priests anyway, don't keep a heavy social life connecting with all the people they ever knew, but wherever you go, you bump into them. And they're quite impressed if you can remember their names, or if you can come up with a question or two about certain of the family members that you recall. It's really quite, what would you say, fulfilling. I don't know of a more fulfilling life that I could have lived, and it's not over yet, than being a priest. I have brothers and sisters who are following other paths, and I'm sure they have lots of satisfactions, but I really wonder if any of them have the kind of sense of fulfillment that goes along with being a priest and serving people in that regard. Prayer is something that you have to keep working on. Mother Teresa spoke about prayer as being the oil that keeps the lamp of faith burning. And I think that's true. If we neglect prayer, we start to drift. We need to, and our faith will weaken, and we need to be aware of prayer in our daily life. I'm still learning more about prayer, I guess. I'm cramming for the finals, as you might say, and I'm sure there's more about prayer that I can still learn and practice in my life. I must say too that a lot of the work you do as a priest is itself a prayer, because sometimes you're so busy that it's very difficult to find private time for prayer. So that's when you really focus at Mass and in preparation for Mass on the readings, because that's a good prayer time, I have always found, to give you a chance to really, the opportunity to focus in on the readings of the day and to make some sense out of it. That's another thing I find refreshing and fulfilling about priesthood, and that is preaching. I don't think in the beginning I found it that way. I think I found it more of a chore, and you were on the firing line, so to speak. You were there tended to be a certain nervousness always, I think, when you preach, but less so as you're more experienced at it, and probably you're more helpful in your homily as time goes on and you have lived a little longer and you have more to share as to how the scripture, the age-old message, can be considered and lived out on a day-to-day basis by the Christian people.